Hello, welcome to Square Balloon Actions and Tutorials. In this tutorial we're going to be making vector graphics and we're going to be using the pen tool to make paths to do that. Vector graphics are graphics that can be rescaled to any size, either bigger or smaller, and they won't lose their quality through rescaling in the way that a bitmap would. If you rescale a bitmap, it'll become pixelated or blurred, but with vector graphics they retain their quality. So we're going to start off by making a vector graphic of this signature here. So you might like to use that somewhere else, save it as a brush or whatever. So I'm going to click on my pen tool here. The first one here, and I'm just going to click and just draw over this. So clicking will just make a single point, and then clicking and dragging gives it a curve as well. So using the pen tool, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you're comfortable with it, it can be fairly fast. So in order to break off at the end of a path, you can just press Control or Command, and you can just start again the next one. And if you don't get it right first time, you can always edit your path once you're finished. We're going to save this path. Okay, this last little bit. So the path is created there for the whole name there. So you can see up here in the Paths panel, which you can get to by going to Windows Paths, and it'll appear up here. You can see the work path there. So what we're going to do is we're going to save the path. We're going to save it as SIG. Now that path will be retained within that image file. So I can save this. I can save this file. Next time I open it up, that path will still be there with it within the panel. You'll be able to see it. So say if I want to do a little bit of editing on this path now. First of all, I'm just going to get rid of the background. I'll just put in a white. So you can see it a little bit better there, and you might like to edit it another little bit. So in order to edit it, you can just click on the path, and holding down Control or Command will allow you to select different points on it, and you can, holding down Control, you can move them around, or else you can just adjust your curves as well. You can also add points along it as well if you want. So once you're happy with that, you can make it into a bitmap. So you can, if I go to the path selection tool here, just draw a rectangle around it, it's selected there. So I can make it bigger or smaller. I can make it huge or tiny, and it'll still retain the same shape. But I want to stroke it now. I want to make a hard black line around the whole thing so I can read it a bit better. So if I decide that I want to do that, then I can just right click. Oh, sorry, let me just click off here for a sec. Make a new layer. So I'm just going to get my path just on its own. So if I right click on that path, I have options here. So I can create a vector mask, which will create a mask here. I can delete the path, define a custom shape. So defining a custom shape means that you can make a shape in here. That's also useful for other things as well. You can make a selection out of it, you can fill it, you can stroke it. We're just going to stroke it for this particular lesson here. So what I want to do is I want to stroke the path. Whatever properties my brush has, they're the properties that are going to stroke it. So for example, my brush is this pencil here. The size is 25 pixels, so I can bring that down if I want. The properties of it are that, well, it's going to be white, so I can make it black. I can go into my brush options. my dynamics can be a certain way. I can have texture in it, transfer pen pressure on or off. Let me just turn that off. We can have smoothing. So whatever brush properties you have here, then when you stroke your path, it's going to have those properties. So let's go back onto my path selection tool and just select the path again, and I can right click, stroke path, and I don't want to simulate pressure because I have 3 different paths here, and it'll look funny if the pressure is simulated in all of them. So I'll just go OK. So you can see how that has stroked it with that size. Now let me just show you if I change the size of that brush and I make it say 5 pixels, and then I go again onto the path selection tool, stroke path. So now it's smaller. So you can see what that does, and I can make it like I could make it, let's see, I'll do something slightly different. Let me just undo that one. Let's see, I'll go on to say this one here, make it a little bit rough around the edges, say scattering, make it wet edges. We'll see how that looks. Well, the wet edges might make it a bit pale, so let's do it like this. So again, path selection, stroke path, and so you can see now that has a textured edge to it. So you can just play around with settings like that until you have what you want in your brush. And don't forget, when you save that file, now I can go in here now and I can define a brush preset for that and then just have it as a stamp. But when you have saved a file like this, when you go back in, even if I've deleted this path, which I can do by just going onto the path selection tool and pressing delete, there you have your signature, your vector graphic on its own. Then when you open that file up again, in your paths panel, you will see that that path will be back in there saved with that file. So that's just a little bit of working with paths and vector graphics.